Welcome back to Global News, your go-to source for the biggest updates from the USA and across the globe. Today, we are counting down the top 10 most impactful news stories you need to know right now. Before we jump in, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss a world update. Let's get started with number 10. Today, first news. US and Japan to forge deeper strategic alliance. In the wake of Japan's snap general election that delivered a decisive victory for Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, the United States has signaled plans to strengthen both economic and security cooperation with its key Asian ally. The announcement comes amid heightened geopolitical uncertainty and a renewed focus on reinforcing alliances in the Indo-Pacific region, reported the Japan Times. According to reports, Washington intends to build on the momentum from Japan's recent polls by enhancing collaborative work on strategic and economic fronts. A U.S. official noted that following the LDP's landslide win, discussions on expanding cooperative frameworks are expected to gain traction, particularly ahead of a planned summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Takaichi in Washington on March 19th. Next news, Sydney police face backlash after clashes during Israeli president's visit. Australian politicians urged restraint on Tuesday after police in Sydney clashed with thousands of protesters opposing Israeli President Isaac Herzog's visit. At least 27 people were arrested amid accusations of excessive force, including the use of pepper spray and horses to disperse the crowd. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese expressed devastation over the violence, calling for peace and noting that such scenes undermine their causes. The visit focused on commemorating victims of a December shooting at Bondi Beach, where Herzog laid a wreath and met survivors. While mainstream Jewish groups welcomed him, others signed open letters stating he was not welcome. Amnesty International has since condemned the police response as a disproportionate use of force, calling for an independent investigation into the incident. Next news, Trump sparks global tension with expansionist map following Super Bowl. President Donald Trump responded to Bad Bunny's Super Bowl message of American unity with a stark reminder of his expansionist ambitions. After the singer showcased a ball labeled "Together We Are America," Trump slammed the performance as an affront to the greatness of America. The president later reshared an AI-generated image on Truth Social depicting a map where Greenland, Canada, and Venezuela are covered by the US flag. This provocative move risks reigniting disputes over Greenland and heightening tensions with Canada, following Trump's previous suggestions that the northern neighbor become the 51st state. While the image illustrates a dream of an expanded empire, it threatens to strain international relations with key allies and neighbors during a period of intense diplomatic friction. Next news, US issues navigation warning for vessels in Strait of Hormuz. The United States has issued updated navigational instructions for US-flagged commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, urging them to stay as far as possible from Iranian territorial waters. The U.S. Maritime Administration advised crews not to forcibly resist if Iranian forces attempt to board, while noting that non-resistance does not imply consent. These guidelines follow indirect talks in Oman amid persistent regional tensions. The waterway, a critical global oil choke point, remains a flashpoint after the June 2025 conflict where U.S. forces bombed Iranian nuclear facilities. President Donald Trump has maintained a firm stance, warning of further strikes if Tehran revives its nuclear programs, while the administration continues to push for zero uranium enrichment and an end to missile development. Next news, Khamenei calls for national unity on 47th anniversary of Islamic Revolution. Leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, has called on the Iranian nation to show unity and resolve on the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. In a televised message ahead of the February 11th rallies, he emphasized that national steadfastness is essential to frustrate the country's enemies. Describing the anniversary as a day for unveiling Iran's power and dignity, he noted that the nation's will and resistance are more vital than military hardware like missiles and aircraft. Khamenei urged citizens to maintain their motivation to discourage external interference and disappoint the enemy. He expressed hope that the youth would continue advancing in science and ethics, further elevating Iran's standing through their consistent and widespread participation in the upcoming historic demonstrations. Next news, India and Greece strengthen defense ties during Minister Dendias's visit. Greek Defense Minister Nikolaos Dendias visited Bengaluru military station on Sunday, witnessing the Indian Army's indigenous drone and simulator technologies at the 515 Army Base Workshop. He commended the Army's professionalism and innovation, particularly its commitment to self-reliance. On Monday, Dendias met with Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in New Delhi, where the two nations signed a joint declaration of intent to strengthen defence industrial cooperation, serving as a basis for a 5-year roadmap. Key outcomes included the exchange of a bilateral military cooperation plan for 2026, and the announcement that a Greek international liaison officer will be stationed at the Information Fusion Centre Indian Ocean Region, IFCIOR, in Gurugram. This visit reaffirms the strategic partnership elevated in 2023, aligning India's Atmanirbhar Bharat with Greece's Agenda 2030. Next news: Israeli forces destroy Jamaah Islamiyah weapons depot in Syria. Israeli forces last week located and destroyed a weapons depot belonging to the terrorist organization Jamaah Islamiyah in the area of the village of Beit Jin in southern Syria. The forces located and destroyed numerous weapons in the depot, including weapons, mines and means of communication, reported the IDF, Israel Defense Forces. The terrorist organization Jamaah Islamiyah has promoted and continues to promote terrorist acts against the State of Israel and its citizens in the northern sector throughout the war, said the IDF. Next news: China and India signal cooperation at BRICS Sherpa meeting in New Delhi. China's Vice Foreign Minister Ma Zhaochu recently attended the inaugural BRICS Sherpa meeting in New Delhi, marking a significant step in diplomatic engagement. During the session, Chinese Ambassador Xu Feihong noted that President Xi Jinping has emphasized a high-quality development model for the greater BRICS framework. This vision focuses on 5 key pillars: peace, innovation, green development, justice, and closer people-to-people exchanges. China expressed a firm readiness to collaborate with India, this year's BRICS chair, to deepen practical cooperation and uphold international fairness. India's BRICS Sherpa, Sudhakar Dalala, highlighted the nation's people-centric and humanity-first vision under the theme of resilience and sustainability. The meeting also welcomed Belarus as a partner country, reflecting the association's expanding global influence. Next news: Iran warns of massive response to external threats. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran has issued a stern warning to adversaries, promising a more forceful and wider response to any threats against the country's territory. In a statement marking the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, military officials praised the nation's endurance and pledged a firm defense against external dangers. Iran stands with authority against any conspiracy or overreach, asserting that escalating pressure from the United States and Israel has only strengthened its resolve. The declaration coincides with a heightened U.S. military presence in the region despite ongoing indirect nuclear discussions. The armed forces emphasized that despite decades of sanctions and hostilities, Iran has achieved self-reliance in scientific and defense sectors. Officials have now called for nationwide rallies on February 11th to demonstrate unity and thwart the schemes of global powers. Next news: Iran assesses U.S. seriousness as nuclear diplomacy continues. Nuclear talks with the United States allowed Tehran to gauge Washington's seriousness and showed enough consensus to continue on the diplomatic track, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said on Tuesday. US and Iranian diplomats held talks through Omani mediators in Oman last week in an effort to revive diplomacy, after US President Donald Trump positioned a naval flotilla in the region, raising fears of new military action. The Muscat meeting was not a long meeting. In our view, it was to gauge the seriousness of the other side and how to continue this path, Bagai said. After the talks, we felt there was understanding and consensus to continue the diplomatic process. The spokesperson said that a trip to Oman on Tuesday by Ali Larijani, an advisor to Iran's supreme leader, was pre-planned to follow up on regional consultations, and that Larijani would next travel to Qatar. Regarding the Israeli Prime Minister's expected trip to Washington on Wednesday, Bagai said the US must act independently of foreign pressures, especially Israeli pressures that ignore the interests of the region and even the US.